The question, can you cry underwater, seems straightforward at first glance, but it actually involves various complex layers. It not only concerns physiological knowledge but also relates to people's emotional and psychological states. The following is an in-depth analysis and exemplification of this issue. Firstly, from a physiological perspective, humans can indeed produce tears underwater. The production of tears is associated with the lacrimal glands, and their function is not affected by the underwater environment. When our eyes are stimulated or our emotions fluctuate, the lacrimal glands secrete tears. Therefore, whether it's above water or underwater, as long as there is sufficient stimulation, tears will naturally occur. However, this does not mean that crying underwater is the same as crying on land. The underwater environment poses unique challenges to this process. Firstly, the density and pressure of water can cause a certain degree of compression on the eyes and face, which may make crying more difficult. Secondly, once tears are produced, they mix with the water, making it difficult to form distinct tear tracks like on land. Furthermore, our vision becomes blurred due to the presence of water, affecting our ability to express and experience the emotions associated with crying. Apart from physiological challenges, crying underwater also involves psychological and emotional aspects. Crying is often a way for humans to release emotions. When we feel sad, painful, or unable to bear certain pressures, crying can help us vent our emotions and obtain psychological comfort. However, in an underwater environment, we may not be able to fully experience the emotional release brought by crying due to various external distractions. For example, let's say a person suddenly experiences intense emotional fluctuations while diving underwater and wants to vent their emotions through crying. However, due to the pressure and density of the water, they may find it difficult to breathe and keep their eyes open. Simultaneously, their vision becomes blurred, and the surrounding scenery appears unfamiliar and unsettling. In such an environment, they may find it extremely difficult to cry, let alone complete the process of emotional venting. Moreover, the underwater environment can also have other impacts on people's psychological states. For instance, the tranquility and mystique of the underwater world can make people feel a sense of isolation, which may exacerbate emotional suppression and loneliness. The dangers and uncertainties underwater can also make people feel more helpless and afraid when crying. In conclusion, although humans can indeed produce tears underwater, the process of crying can be greatly restricted and affected due to the uniqueness of the underwater environment. This not only involves physiological challenges but also complex psychological and emotional issues. Therefore, for the question, can you cry underwater? We can say that from a physiological perspective, humans can indeed produce tears underwater. However, from a psychological and emotional perspective, crying underwater may not be an ideal way to vent emotions. Of course, everyone's emotional experience is unique, and some people may find a special way to cry underwater as a means of emotional venting or seeking spiritual comfort. Nevertheless, we should respect everyone's emotional choices and understand the limitations and challenges posed by the underwater environment on emotional expression. Subjective answer: in my opinion, although humans can produce tears underwater, it is not an ideal environment for crying. The uniqueness of the underwater environment makes crying difficult, and both physiological oppression and psychological loneliness can make people feel even more painful and helpless when crying. Therefore, I tend to believe that when we encounter emotional fluctuations underwater, we should seek other more suitable ways to vent our emotions, such as through breathing exercises, meditation, or communicating with companions to relieve stress and emotions.